Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. Special guest today is Damian Segura. You know, the retired St. Pius head basketball coach for 20 years, 16 years head coach and 4 years as assistant coach. And does that hit home there, retired?
It will in June because, as you know, Steve,
right
now it'd be the downtime anyway for basketball coaches, getting ready for the summer. But I tell you what, come June, and you know how June is. Once June, the camps start up, and then you kind of get your summer program into full gear. You know, I just remember the last 10, 12 years having something every day in June with the guys. I mean, whether it be a team camp, whether it be a workout, whether it be a weight session. And I have not experienced a June in 20 years. I'm looking forward to this month called June. I hear it's out there, but that's when I think when it'll hit me.
Well, you know, I say that, and you know, a lot of people, you know, one, I think, you know, from Pro-V Network, you know, we're going to miss you. Okay, I just want to say that. It was always neat to see Damian being in, you know, district and state championship, being in the pit, and the whole thing, and what a run. I mean, I tell you, what a career you've had.
It's given me a lot more than I could ever give it back. It hasn't really hit home in terms of not being in the coaching box, not having a group of guys to work with and help mold into being the best that they could be. Yet, like I said, I think it'll probably hit me in the next several months. But it's been just a tremendous experience for me to have with young men and watching them. And the biggest thrill I get is watching them after they graduate and seeing the things they do when they go off and become young men and become productive members of society and raise families of their own and impart some of the wisdom, hopefully a little bit, that they learned with our program into their families and into their work life and into their day-to-day activities.
A lot of accolades, 4 state champions, 3 in a row, 8 district champions in a row, and I mean, that takes a lot of, besides being the master of being the head coach, but it also takes a lot of great assistants and some great players.
It does, and it goes all the way back to day one. I was privileged enough to have, just by happenstance and by coincidence of the cosmos cross and pass, Hall of Fame coach Frank Dooley, who was won 4 state championships at Deming, built the Alamogordo program in the 80s.
And I was part of his dominant in the I actually played in the 70s, and he was at Alamogordo, and that's how him and I actually got to play in Alamogordo and play against him.
So as great he is a coach as you would know, he's a better guy. I mean, in terms of his morals and his foundation and base, and he was with me my first year. We only coached together that 1 year, but we maintained a friendship up until this day.
Let me,
sure.
And that part was, I thought he was your assistant coach for like 3 or 4 years,
right,
because he was always, he'd go to games with you, he'd go, you know, he'd meet you afterwards, and he'd be talking about things. I thought he was actually your assistant for many years.
So funny story, in my first year, you know, I'm 28 years old at the time, and your first year head coach, going through all the bumps and bruises that a first year coach goes through, and 28, you think you know a lot. And he pulled me aside about halfway through the year and said, "I really think you're deviating off course in some areas here. And let me tell you," and he spoke very directly to me and said, "If you don't make these adjustments, you're not going to last very long." That was just invaluable to me, and I was able to take what he had suggested and imparted upon me and integrate that into our program, and we got a lot better quickly. And without him and without that, I don't think I'm sitting here with you today. And I think that God looks after fools and children, and I'm too old to be a kid, but you know, he he put Frank in my life for a reason, and we've maintained a friendship unto this day.
You know, we were talking about, you know, being 28 years old, and then we were laughing, but it's a little bit true, is that when you're 28, you know, your philosophies and your what you're going to get done is a little bit different than it was, you know, 20 years later. So, so with that being said, but for whatever, you embraced talking to him. I mean, he wasn't you know, you're very fortunate. You didn't get a yes man. You got somebody that has been there, has been through winning state champions, built programs, very astute in the basketball world in New Mexico, and a lot of people don't want to listen to that. I mean, and if you think about, things are changing, because when he coached, it was a 2-point line, the 3-point line came in. I mean,
Right.
it was inside, outside, and things like that. But they all have meaning.
They all do, and you said the game is changing immeasurably just in the time that, you know, since I've been a head coach, starting in 2003 till now. Just the way the game is played, just the amount of different tools you have at your disposal now. The technology makes it so easy to review your team, to see another team, to make adjustments on the fly. The impressive thing with Frank was that there are some things that don't change. You know, for the most part, kids don't change. Kids are the same they were, you know, 50 years ago as they are now. They have different distractions, they have different challenges than we did, but they're pretty much the same. And how to interact and how to deal with them, some of those values back then work today. And that's what we've tried to do at Pius over the course of my time, is to impart those values that never change: hard work, sacrifice, being accountable, being responsible. Those type of things that we try to impart on our kids every day, to take into the world, not only in basketball, but into the world. Those things don't never really change.
You know, what I've seen in the kid, you're right. What I see is they're more educated.
Yeah.
And they're astute, and they you have to be on top of to keep them focused. You still have to make it fun, and those things maybe have changed a little bit when I, you know, basically. And dealing with the parent mindset's a little bit different than when I played. My parents said, "Hey, you do whatever the coach says,
right.
and you don't talk back. I'm not going to go talk." Those things have changed over the last 20, 30 years quite a bit.
They have, you know, you have a much smaller window of time to get through and make points to kids. Their attention span is, you got to grab them pretty quick, because anymore, you know,
Back to you said, the distractions are huge.
there's just so many peripheral distractions. Kids are able to multitask a little bit better than we did back in the day, because we pretty much had one thing in front of us, and that's what we dealt with. You know, kids could be on their phones, they could be having a conversation, they could be doing a lot of different things. So the time you have when you're just trying to impart a simple drill or a technique or piece of wisdom, you got to grab them pretty quick. Your window is a lot shorter. As my post-game speeches used to be, you know, 7, 8, 10 minutes long. Anymore, they were 2 or 3 minutes long, because that's the time you have. Because after, you know, it makes us feel good as coaches trying to air out what we have to air out, but you know, they kind of tune you out after 2 or 3 minutes. They'll start thinking about other things. You have a small window of time really to grab their attention anymore, and that's one of the challenges I think that younger coaches today. But they also know that because they grew up in it as well, in terms of younger coaches coming into the profession now.
Well, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week and come back and talk more about your career and all the good things that happened.
Yeah.
It's a clean start here in this one. Nearing our first exchange. Coming out of that, look at Cleveland on the inside, passing Volcano Vista. Cleveland 1, Volcano 2. Rio in third, Volcano 4. Cleveland hands off well in front of the pack. They'll start to cut in. Final exchange, it's Cleveland with the lead. Need a strong anchor to hold on. Here comes Volcano Vista. Cleveland 1, Volcano 2. And it's Cleveland that's going to take it. Wire. Guns up. And it's a clean start. And right away, it's Noah Fay leading the pack. Hurdles going down left and right. And Noah Fay is undeterred. He's your champ. Here we go, clean start. Coming around the turn. Look at that. Blaine Grant from Volcano Vista with the jets. Not even close. Blaine Grant goes wire to wire in that one. 21-8. Runs up. We've got a clean start. Boys 4x100 meter relay. Fastest prelim time belongs to the Cleveland Storm at 42.47. Volcano Vista coming in right behind them at 42.88. Second exchange. Volcano and Cleveland very clean, and look at them coming around the turn. And Cleveland out ahead after that one. Great exchange. And it's down to the final leg. That is a heavy push being made by Volcano, but Cleveland able to hang on. Thea Jaramillo from Albuquerque High. It's a clean start here. As I said, Swanson in lane 4 comes in with the fastest seat time, and there she is, well ahead of the competition already. Israel Swanson is your 2019 Metro champ. Runners are up. We're off. It's a clean start here. 200 meter dash. This is the one and only heat. Adriana Tatum coasting in front of the pack. Johnson in second, Duffy in third, but that is Tatum the entire way. Is up. We're underway. It's a clean start in our first race. Getting around to exchange number 1. Looks good. We had a clean exchange zone there. Cleveland looked to be out in front as of right now, getting into exchange number 2. And here comes La Cueva there in lane 4. Keep an eye. Sandia making a really heavy push as well here in lane 3. Final exchange. It's all going to come down to this. Bears and Matadors well out in front. And how's that for an anchor leg from Sandia? The Matadors will take it for this year. Tatum in lane 4 has your fastest prelim time, the only one that's sub 13. She qualified at 12.83. And there she goes, making it look easy. Adriana Tatum from Sandia High School. And it's a clean start. A bit of a slow start there in lane 4 for Grant. And is he going to be able to bring it back? Check out lane 3. Connor O'Toole, it looked like he celebrated it. Let's go to the board for conference.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Damian Segura, retired St. Pius head basketball coach, head coach for the last 16 years and assistant coach for 4 years. And, you know, we talked about, you know, just one of your assistants in that one segment, but you've had many more.
I have. You know, I was fortunate to coach under two really good guys with Wally Salata and Todd Resch when I was an assistant, and cut my teeth under those two guys. Todd took a chance on me. He hired me as the freshman assistant coach, was essentially, you know, almost a step above the water boy. So that first year I got to experience a lot with the successful program that Todd was running at the time. With Wally Salata, we won our first district championship at Pius in 17 years in 2002, and he brought a certain organization and approach to the game, and I was able to take a little bit from both of those guys and try to impart that to great assistants that I've had. You know, I think my first couple years I had Guy Berger. My first about 7 or 8 years, Guy Berger was
What a class act.
just a great guy. And
Well, I got to tell you something. I got to say something about this. Did y'all fight for who was the best dressed? I mean, did y'all have to go? Did you have to?
He won that every time. Guy got a little deeper closet than I did at the time. It
rubbed off on you, though.
He did. He would. And the best thing I could say about Guy, he trusted me to coach his son. Peter was with me the first couple years, his junior and senior year, and Peter was my first captain. His son, and he trusted. The biggest thing that compliment you can have is when another coach, especially as one as accomplished as Guy, trusts you to coach his kid, especially how young I was at the time. And Peter really kind of took the mantle in terms of being our first captain. Really bought into what we were doing, bought into how we were going about it, and that kind of set the foundation to what were to come for years to come in terms of our program and the level of expectation that our players are supposed to have. The other guy, young guy that Todd Resch actually recommended to me, he came over from Del Norte, was Marcos Rivera. Marcos was not even 21 years old when he came to coach with us at St. Pius, and at the time, my staff was full. I told Todd, I'm full. I don't have anybody. I don't have any room. And he said, this guy's young. He's got tons of energy, and he's a gym rat. You will not have enough of those guys. So I brought him on as a JV assistant coach that first year. And we had a little bit of turnover with Frank leaving the staff after that first year, Frank Dooley. And he impressed me so much, I pulled him up to varsity assistant. I said, this guy is awesome. I mean, he just is his passion. We both grew up in northern New Mexico at rival schools. He went to Powhatan, I went to St. Mike's. So you figure that wouldn't work right away, but it did. And he stayed with me for 14 years. And we were able to have a lot of success. When I got sick in 2011.
I was going to say, when he took over, and that was...
So he took over a team. That's just how impressive this was. In 2011, I got diagnosed with kidney cancer, and I had to have surgery in the middle of the district season, which was the hottest time of the year. We had gotten off to a good start in district season. We were undefeated. I think we were 3-0 when I had to go out for my surgery. And we were in a tough district with Academy. You know, Adrian Ortega had a Trisco Heritage just starting off at the time, and just a really tough district. And I had to pass the baton to him when I was going to miss time off, and he kept it going. We didn't lose a game when he took over in that time. We were starting at the time 3 or 4 sophomores as well, so we had a young team, and he was able to direct us through that, and I think kind of set his foundation to the success he's had in his first couple of years at Sandia Prep. You can kind of see that he's always been ready for this role as being the head guy.
Well, let's just go back a little bit further. Even before that, you were also fortunate enough to have Bill Duffy and Lincoln Galaxy that's deceased, but those were, you know, very in your success. They were part of your success.
Absolutely, immeasurably so. Guy Berger, very smart. He said, you know, got to bring in Pius has a
Don't give him
tremendous-
that credit.
Yeah,
Let's don't give him that too much credit.
yeah, especially with Bill. The thing there was because Bill had the other 3 state titles that Pius had in 80, 82, and 85. Guy, my first year, he said, it's important that you embrace the tradition at St. Pius, which I already did. I mean, I understood coming from St. Mike's, who has a tremendous tradition of its own, to understand, know, and embrace your past, and especially your past successes, and the people that were involved with that. And Lincoln Galassini, who was a Pius basketball coach in the mid to late 70s, also the baseball coach, a state championship baseball coach, and Bill Duffy, who won 3 state titles with Pius and won runner-up in the 80s.
So there's 7 championships, and you have 4. And,
Yeah.
and did you have
Yeah.
little bragging rights with Bill when you won the
So,
4th World Cup?
not really. We never really talked about that. The only thing, and as you know, we talked a little off camera. I don't know my overall record. I really don't. But the one thing that I did keep track of was when I passed him for all-time head coaching wins at Pius. And granted, I also have the all-time losses as well. But that was, and I just shared it between me and him, and because we have that type of relationship. And it wasn't, hey, I got you. It's like, Coach, you have a tremendous history here. We talked about that and we a little bit, and it was just between he and I, and just kind of like, we know how lucky we were to have the kids that we had, and the success that we had at Pius.
Well, also with that, he was part of your success. I mean, I think that's more important to him. I mean, he kind of made the legend of St. Pius, him and Lincoln, and the stories going back to Ira Harge and Joe Harge, and even Wally Salata. I mean, you think about all those teams and that he coached, but to see him, I just know that he was very excited and all. He was always at the games, the championship games, and talking great about Pius.
It was, and the first one that we won in 2006, I remember him sitting behind the bench. He's there in his shirt, and we got up in the locker room after the game against Del Norte, and I thought going to that game, if we had ever had the chance to win a state championship, I would just be a pile of tears and emotional. He was more emotional than I was. He was. It meant a lot to him to see Pius reach that plateau again in terms of success on the basketball court, because it'd been a long time. It'd been 21 years in between state titles at Pius, and when we actually were able to win that game, we embraced at the top of the ramp. We kind of just reveled in the moment and just the work it takes to get there. And he was really proud of us and the kids, and to see that come from him, who had success in the past, meant a lot.
Well, Damon, we're going to go to a little break and come back and talk about some of your players and some of those state champions.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sadie's is a proud supporter of New Mexico high school sports and athletics, and we here at ProView Networks would like to thank Sadie's for their continued support in helping us bring you all of your New Mexico high school sports coverage.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Damian Segura, and I'm not going to say this no more, but anyway, the former head basketball coach at St. Pius, and again, what a career. And you win 4 state champions, and I know this question is always asked, and I'm not going to ask it because the one is, well, which one was more important? Well, they're all important, okay? They're all great, and they all have storylines that are all special to you. But let's go back to your first one. I mean, that was 2008.
Yeah, 2006 was our first one.
Oh, 2000, excuse me.
Yeah, 2006 was our first one. We played Del Norte in the finals. What was fun about that one was that Del Norte, we had played them 4 times previously, and they beat us 3 times. The thing about
good team,
real good team, and again, I grew up north, and there are blood rivalries up north.
A kid named Danforth.
Scotty Danforth, he can play a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Still playing.
He's killing it right now. up north, we had, growing up at St. Mike's, just those hot northern rivalries, St. Mike's and Taos, St. Mike's. So, I mean, I've been used to being in packed gyms and just a lot of energy. The 2 years at Del Norte, 2006, 2007, that we played Scott Bamforth, and we had Chris Johansson and Morris Hewlin and Ryan Brennan, and they had a really good team over there, was as hot a rivalry as I've ever been a part of in terms of just those 2 years. And so when we beat Del Norte in 2006, it meant a lot to us, especially since they had beaten us 3 times previous. We had our full squad finally for that last game. We were a little bit dinged up the other couple times that we played them, but they beat us, on the floor. But we had a lot of confidence going into that last game. Now in 2007, that year, probably the most stories come out of that year. I know we don't have the time, but we started out 3-8.
I remember that.
Yeah, and then we came back and
You were on the coaching block.
yeah. So what's going on over there? Yeah,
Right.
the bottom fell out. They win a title, and I guess it's just one team that they got. But we bottomed out after a loss to Capital, which put us at 3-8, and it just a lot of things happened. A lot of things came into place, and we were playing our best ball in March, and then we happened to play Capital again for the finals and beat them. And then most of that team comes back in 2008, and I think I think that was their first year doing this, right? Yeah,
yes.
and I remember the comment that I think it was either you or somebody else made that the only time that team smiled, and it's true all year. Right. The only time it was when we won the finals, because we felt the responsibility to take it all away. We know that there's only been a handful of teams to win 3 in a row. We knew the history. We knew what was at stake, and we knew we had the ability to do it. So when we were able to complete that three-peat, especially beating the great Mike Brown in the finals in our blood rival academy, meant a lot to us. 2013 was a different year. It was a bunch of guys that were just really talented coming up. We lost we lost Espanola in 2011 in the semifinals after going 4 overtimes to Santa Teresa the game before. We lost at the buzzer in 2012 to Gallup, and we took those lessons and matured in 2013 to where we were able to push through and win the title that year with a really great group of seniors that year.
Well, going back to that 3-8 record, and it's something that people need to know about you and St. Pius, is that I'm asking this question is your schedules were brutal in preseason, and now did you learn from that 3-8? Because you were always concerned about you were the one to figure out, I want to be ready for district, and I want to be ready for the district championship, and I want to be ready for the state playoffs.
It did, especially back then, because the rules were a little bit different back then. That with the seeding criteria and the emphasis that is placed on overall record, head-to-heads. You have to schedule a little bit differently now than back then. Back then, we would just schedule, Sandia, Cibola.
Right,
throw them all on. It really did, and we
even scheduled me. So.
Yeah, second game ever. My second game ever was against you. My funny story, my first 3 games, my first game was against Rio Grande High School. They were preseason #1 team in the state. They had Harvey Hale, Cleve Files, Alex White. Second game, you had Timmy Crowell, the Kenyenda brothers, all them guys. You guys are #2 in the state, if I remember right. We play Manzano. We actually pick up a win that game. Our third game is against the eventual state runner-up.
You hadn't held that against me. I lost your tape.
And then the third game, our third loss was against Cibola, who had Alan Branch, and they had Casey Cunningham and Jude Roybal and them guys that ended up going to the state finals against El Dorado. And that was my welcome to coaching, was playing those 3 teams right off the bat. So. Yeah, scheduling, it was a big part of building up our mental toughness and just being able to be resilient. And I think that's the biggest indicator of teams today is how resilient is your team. Not necessarily how talented, but I think the best indicator in terms of how your team's going to do going forward is how resilient is your team. How can they come back from adversity and challenges? You
got 30 seconds. I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure.
Just kind of 20 years, what did it mean to you? The last 20 years.
I don't think and I'm looking
Hasn't sunk in yet?
It hasn't, but I'm going to find it challenging to find something that was this rewarding again, and I know that, and I know that the rewards that I got just from dealing day to day with the great young men I did, it's going to be tough to even try to fill that hole, and I'm not even going to try to fill it. I'm going to try to do some different things, but at the same point in time, it has given me way more than I could have ever given it back.
Well, Don Mon, thanks a lot for coming on the
Thanks a
Steve
lot,
Davis
Steve.
Show for me.